Welcome to another episode on how Lora works with Shelly, where we discuss how to use Lora to communicate between Shelly devices that are outside the Wi-Fi range. And this is going to be now episode 7 of this series. And I think I mentioned either in episode 1 or 2 that I'm going to do a range test. So this video is actually about the range test. So you can see the two devices, you can see the two devices here. So this is the the Shelly 1 Gen 4. So that's my gateway device. So this is something that I would, leave in the house or around the house, and that's going to be my sort of like the base station or the gateway. And I built the Shelly 2PM Gen 4 into this box. So I have a button that I can press and that sends a signal to the base station, and then on the phone we can just see if the message was received, and we will see the signal strength and the signal to noise ratio in order to tell how reliable the connection was. What I said previously is that if the RSSI is above -100 or around -100, it should be a reliable communication. And again, the signal to noise ratio ideally would be in the positive figures. But as you will see later in the videos, I was managed to go down to RSSI to -117, maybe 120. And also the signal to noise ratio sometimes dropped to -16, and I was still getting a reliable connection. Granted, I tested it a couple of times. Maybe if I would test it like 50 times, then I would have, lost some of the messages. But based on this testing, the connection with these figures was still reliable. Here I'm going to test 3 different scenarios. On the first scenario, the Shelly 1 is inside the house. So I just wanted to test how the walls is going to affect the communication. Also keep in mind that I live in Europe, so I have a regular brick and concrete house. So if you live in the US, if you have lighter constructions or wood, your results are probably going to be better. And without telling you the details, I think I managed to get around 20 meters distance, and I even got reliable signals from the basement, underground. In the next test, I placed this Shelly outside on, top of some structure, because I wanted to see how it affects the communication if the signal doesn't have to go through walls. It still wasn't a perfect line of sight because there were trees in the way and sometimes some other houses as well. But again, with this, I think we managed to get up to 140 meters of communication on sort of open air and partially obstructed line of sight. And for the third test, I put the receiver on the top of the house. There was a flat roof which had a water tank on it. So it was really high up, and I was driving around with the the sender unit, and I managed to get her 700 meters away from the sender. So that was definitely better. So from these scenarios, I can confidently tell that the placement of the receiver really matters. So the less walls the signal needs to travel, the connection is going to be more reliable and the received signal is going to be much better quality. But even when the sensor was indoors, I was able to sort of receive signals from around the house or inside the house. So if you really need to cover large distances, then I think it's better if you are mounting the sensor outside, if possible in an elevated area. But also keep in mind that I was focusing on keeping the base station sort of elevated, but not so much about the sender unit. But both of them really matter. So if you want the maximum results, so probably above a kilometer distance or maybe even a few kilometers, then both the receiver and the transmitter, or both of the Shellys, need to be sort of high up. And I would also make sure that the small antenna also sits vertically, because the signal travels perpendicular from the axis of the antenna. For this test, I use my smart glasses to record the actual locations. I haven't really used smart glasses for something like that before, so the audio might be a slightly bit different from this one, but hopefully that's going to be still okay for you. So now let's see the range test results. And after the range test, if you are interested, I'm going to show you the scripts that I use for this specific range test, because I deleted the scenarios that I did for some of the earlier, cases that I did from video 2 to video 6. And if you are planning to prospect your areas, various possible locations for these, Shelly Lora devices, I think these devices could be useful for you as well. So you can conduct the same experience that I did in this video. So as a first test, I have the Shelly one on my desk. It's plugged in at the moment, and well, we are going to use this as a gateway, so nothing is really plugged into it. I set the antenna upside down, so probably it's going to have better reception, and I have it in the Shelly app, and I can see that it, I can hear that it's clicking. So we are going to use these metrics in order to tell what the reception is when I trigger the LoRa message from the remote end. And for the remote end, I have the other Shelly in this box with a button and the light. So I'm going to power it from my power station so we can just move around. And let me do a test. So message is sent. And we are getting -74 SSI and then 8 signal to noise ratio. So it is working, and obviously that's going to reset. And we can move over to our next target. So maybe we should go out to the garden. Come to the far end of the garden, and actually the Shelly is there inside, so it's only one wall away. So if we test it now, I get the light, and actually we are getting better signal here than from the garage. So it's -81 dB. So that's really good. And well, technically I still have Wi-Fi reception here because I have a repeater in the garage, but yeah, so that's probably 20 meters. Now I move to the far end of the garden. So the Shelly is there. So it's probably, I don't know, 30, 50 meters, maybe a little bit more wall. So let's see how it performs. I have the light and -81 dBm. So it's pretty much like the garage situation. And the signal to noise ratio is really decent still. So let's pick a spot there which is further diagonal to the house, so we should have more walls in the way. We are at the other end, and I even dug down behind this concrete wall, so maybe that's going to make a difference. So let's push the button and see the results. Maybe that's a little bit too much. So it looks like maybe too many walls actually makes a difference. So let me put it on top so we have less obstruction. Test again and see. Nope, we are not getting any response. So this is just too far away, too many walls in between, and the signal cannot get to the receiver. So it's really, it looks like it's mostly the obstructions than the distance that makes the difference. And also my phone is cutting off the Wi-Fi. So let me try this spot, which is closer to the house, but we are still sort of, the receiver is the other end of the house. So we have quite a few different walls between us. So test. Oh, so this is -71. So it is interesting that, I mean, I would have thought that there is more obstructions through the house this way, but still the message is able to get through. Let me try to pick a closer spot. So actually I changed my mind. I come down to the basement where my phone just has enough internet connection in the window there. So let's see. I mean, I'm really doubtful. Oh, actually we do. So -80 dBm or -80 dB on the signal reception, although there is like a concrete floor above us, which probably have reinforcements or some steel meshes as well, but it's able to get through. So yeah, I mean, I would have thought that the previous location, or the location 2 before these at the end of the garden would have been, you know, good enough, but that was just too much. And I thought this is maybe it's going to be on the edge, but you know, -80 we can still go down to -100 and probably still have a sort of reliable connection. So that's not that bad after all. Okay, so I came out to the street, and pretty much I'm opposite on the road, but I have more or less a line of sight to the room where the Shelly is. So let's see if we can pick up something from here. Yeah, -78 dB. So yeah, as I said, if you have sort of like line of sight, distance does not really matter that much. Let me just do one more, go a little bit further down. Location, we are further away. The road also dips down a little bit, but I think probably we still have line of sight through the hedge and everything. So let's test. Oh, -102. So, and the signal to noise ratio is also very low. So I would say probably that is the distance that I would go for. probably the furthest away if I have the receiver inside. With a little bit of redneck engineering, I put this one on top of this thing where I have the bins, so it has a view over that street. So I'm planning to go down there to do a range test. So this should be a line of sight for, you know, pretty much all the way until the end of the street, and still have some Wi-Fi reception from the access point which is in the garage. So I have a little bit of, well, actually it says, let me just go back. So Gen 4 and the settings, device information. So it still says that it has, where is it? It says Wi-Fi signal is good. So this is the same spot as before on the electrical box. The device is there. So let's test. I heard a click and minus 66 dB. Minus 66. I think it's not without dB. RSSI is a relative value. So that's pretty good. Let's move to the next spot. So this is the same spot as before, further down on the road. And if I test, we get minus 82 as opposed to the minus 102 that we had before. So it definitely matters that there is no obstruction between the receiver and the gateway. Okay, so my house is at the top of the hill. I think this is still line of sight, but it's just barely scraping the surface. Okay, minus 60, minus 96. And yeah, I thought it would be a slightly better, but let's move further down. So I came all the way to the end of the road. I can't really see my house because of the trees and everything, but I think it shouldn't really matter for this guy. So let's test. Oh, minus 100. Oh, yeah, that's what I was expecting. So just you know how much difference it makes that it's outside and it's not obstructed. I mean, we had like the two previous locations, we had the same one when it was inside the house. Okay, so let's test again. Yeah, minus 101, and the signal to noise ratio still looks fairly decent. Okay, so I come off to the side a little bit. So this is where I was, next to the bus stop, and that's the road which leads up to my house. So the house is somewhere there in the distance beyond all those other houses, but it might just still work. Minus 110. Okay, the signal to noise ratio became much worse, so it's minus 3. So it's definitely showing that there is a lot of obstruction in the way. But we get a signal, we can get data through. Maybe it's just going to be less reliable, but if I press again, yeah, it's still working. So yeah, that's definitely not line of sight and pretty far away, but still works. Okay, so I came to the next parallel road. So my road is that way, and so my house is somewhere there, and we are pretty much the same distance as before. And another car was just going by, so just let me test. Minus 119 and minus 11 signal to noise ratio, the worst that I've ever seen. So I thought this was just not going to work, so it definitely works. Okay, so as a next test, I'm at my cottage and I'm getting it winterized. This is why the that training tank is being drained. But anyway, I thought this is a nice you know, high point on the top of the roof. So I installed the Shelly 1 Gen 4 here. So you can see the well, it is connected to the network. Sorry, Gen 1, and then it is connected to the network. Actually, I'm tethering the internet from my work phone, and yeah, it is working. I can test it, and it clicks. Maybe because of the 4G connection is going to be a little bit slow, but nevertheless it's working. And I think this is like a fairly flat area, so I should be able to go far away and then probably test the maximum distance that this device can communicate over LoRa. So let's see how it works. So that's going to be my test setup. The battery and the Shelly 2PM is strapped to my bike, and let's do a test just outside. That's on top of the roof, and minus 64, and signal to noise ratio is 8. So that looks very good. Okay, so I came a few hundred meters. First test, sending a message, minus 96. Well, I'm quite far away, but I thought it's going to be better. So we are really reaching, well, already reaching the sort of the end of the reception. Okay, let's take another test further away. Okay, new location. I came further away and doing a test. Oh, okay, we still have a connection. Minus 106 and signal to noise ratio is minus 9. I mean, mind you, it's not directly line of sight, but I was hoping that because we are sort of like high up above the buildings, there is going to be less like concrete obstruction. But probably there are some higher, buildings in a way as well. So, okay, let's do some more tests. Okay, next location. Probably came another 300 meters or so. And let's do the test. Ooh, okay. That's definitely the worst I've ever seen. So minus 117 and minus 19 signal to noise ratio. I'm planning to go up to the railway station because the railway is a little bit higher than anything else. So maybe that's going to help with the reception. On the tracks now. So let's test. Yeah, it's better. Not a whole lot better, but it's definitely better. Slightly higher RSSI and also higher signal to noise ratio. So we are sort of like that direction. Down to the lake, and probably this is the furthest I would go. And let's test. Yes. And I think we can safely say that we are outside the range. Okay, so at least I don't have to go any further. But let me go back on a slightly different route and do a few more measurements. So on the way back, I'm coming on the other side of the railway line. Probably you can see it here. They're sort of elevated, so I was thinking maybe that's also in a way to having a line of sight. But let's see. I'm definitely closer than in the previous location. But hopefully this should work. And no, it doesn't seem to be working. No, we are too far away. Probably too many buildings in the way. A little bit closer because I think everything matters at this location. Like even one building is probably going to make a difference. And yes, so I only came like probably 50 meters from the previous location and we have some data. And the train is just passing by. So minus 113 and minus 16 signal to noise ratio. Yeah, it is pretty bad. So it was sort of like at the verge of, how far the reception will go. So at this point, we are almost at the same location as the house. Well, obviously in this parallel road. So let's test here. Yeah, I think it's this. I mean, previously I would have said that, anything close to minus 100 is probably really bad. But we have seen that it can go, much way below than this. Also the signal to noise ratio. So I think it's good. I mean, it's a reliable connection. Definitely we got the first ping. And I think this just proves that obviously the placement of the receiver, receiver transmitter, it really matters. So that the fact that it's higher up now than where it was in the previous test just makes the signal go longer. So, but I think with this test that we did, especially now, we are sort of covering state territories. So that's probably definitely bigger and longer distances than, normal homeowners or like lot owners would need to cover. And this pretty much concludes the range test of the Shelly Lora add-on module. I mean, I haven't gone to the extreme and tried to go to the best, possible reception and the furthest reception, because definitely I could have improved each of these scenarios. But I think that still shows that within, like normal scenarios where you have a house and like a decent size lot, or even I would say like a small estate, you can get these devices to reliably communicate with each other and cover a much larger area what you would normally do with Wi-Fi. If you are interested in these devices, just like with the other videos, I have links in the video description below. But I think that will be all for today. Thanks for watching and hopefully see you in the next video.